that I will become the best I can be. I will, try and reach my highest potential, because in my logic, I thought if everybody made that kind of decision and said, okay, if everybody said, I will reach my highest potential and I will be happy and I will be like successful and fulfilled and so on, then this will be a much better world in a way, yes? And so in a way you are changing the world just because you're changing yourself and you're making yourself better. So that helped a little bit with my purpose. And then when I graduated from university and I moved to Europe in 97, I started listening a lot to Brian Tracy's tapes, Anthony Robbins, and reading a lot of books on self-improvement. And then I went back to university eventually to get my MBA, focusing on leadership, and that's when I learned about coaching. That was 2001. Okay. I learned about coaching and I thought it was amazing. Like I absolutely loved the whole idea of mentoring and focusing on the future and focusing like present and the future and building from there. And that's how I found my calling. And I finally discovered my purpose. And then I made it my purpose to help other people, find their purpose, because I knew how bad it feels not to have it. Mm-hmm. So that's a long answer to your question.
Yeah. No, but that's a great answer. But thank you.
Thank you.
So along your journey to find your purpose, I know you mentioned Tony Robbins. Was there a particular Tony Robbins book or other books that you were reading that really stick out as the ones that helped the most?
Yes. Specifically Brian Tracy's audio program, and it was cassettes at the time. Mm-hmm. It's called Psychology of Achievement. Psychology of Achievement. I'm pretty sure it's still very useful and very something that people can still learn a lot from, because he talks about the laws of the universe and how to use those laws. And that's when I learned, first of all, that I'm responsible for my life. That was a new concept for me then. Now it's very common. Everybody talks about it. Oh, you create your own life. Right. They have tools and affirmations. At the time, it was very new to me, about how you program yourself and how everything happens through you. And just that really empowered me. Mm-hmm. I find, surprisingly, that a lot of people don't like to hear that. They much prefer living a life of victimization and blame and having someone else responsible for what is not working in their life. Mm-hmm. But I found it extremely empowering. And I thought that, if it's up to me how I experience this life, then all I need is to find the tools to build the life that I want. And that just really gave me like, okay, now I need to read this, I need to listen to that. And I did all the exercises, and I was very determined to build a good life for myself. And another thing that I learned through the same program is about the emotion of guilt. And again, many people are raised through guilt. Parents subconsciously often, I guess, manipulate children into behaving by using guilt. And so many people grow up with that emotion kind of driving them, or not, on the contrary, or just they attract situations that make them feel guilty. And that was me. Everything that was around me was kind of surrounded with guilt. And when I realized that it's an emotion that is very destructive, unnecessary, and unless I deliberately planning or wanting to cause pain to someone, there is no reason for this emotion. There's no reason to feel guilty, and it's very destructive and leads to very bad relationships and so on. So I stopped. I made a decision that I would not allow myself to be led by guilt and allow other people, to make me feel guilty, and that made a huge difference as well.
Mm-hmm. So I think that probably is a good transition into what your latest book is about, which is mastering your emotions. So what made you want to start writing, and what made you want to write this book?
This is a second book under the umbrella of the 1 Minute Coach system, I call it. I was delivering workshops and trainings since hold on a second, 2002.
Okay.
Yes, a year before my second daughter was born. Yes, since 2002, I started on the topic of accelerated learning techniques, the skill of learning how to learn. That was quite a fascinating topic for me, whole brain learning. And I designed all my training programs using accelerated learning techniques. That's, like I mentioned, works with how our brain naturally take in the information, how we process the information, how we put out the information. So that's how I started. And I noticed that a lot of people who come to workshops and trainings and, even do classes in universities, they do it with the best intention to learn, to be better and invest time and money and effort. And a lot of them would go back to their day-to-day life and forget over 90% of what they learned, which is a shame because, you put so much effort, time and money into something. So I was thinking of a way to change that, and I started sending to all my participants this very short, I called them the 1 Minute Coach, because I didn't want it to be more than a minute. I thought everybody's busy, they get too much information anyway, but I just wanted to send this little reminder of something they learned and specific action steps. Because information these days is not power. What is power is taking action based on the information that you receive. So I wanted to make it as easy as possible, and I would give specific action steps. Okay, this is what we learned. Remember, this is what you can do with it, and and I give steps. And people really liked those messages, and they started to send them to their friends. And eventually I ended up with quite a very nice subscriber base. And after 2 years, people started asking me to put it in the book. Now, I mentioned that my background is mathematics, exact science. Writing was my worst subject. So I thought, me, an author, like, what are you talking about? I'm not a writer. But I am somebody who likes to make things easy, and comfortable, for people. So after they asked me a couple more times, I said, okay, I'll make it easy. I'll put it in a book. I knew nothing about publishing a book. But when you really want something and you say, okay, this is what I want to do, almost like you put it out there into the universe, everything that needs to happen comes your way. I find this in my life over and over again. If you really want something and you're clear about your outcome, the steps of how to get there, they reveal themselves. You just need to be open to receiving them. So almost immediately after I made that decision to publish a book, I got an email to go to the book marketing university. It was by Mark Victor Hansen, who is the author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. So I flew to America, and then I learned about book publishing. And so my first book, which I called The 1 Minute Coach, Change Your Life 1 Minute at a Time, was published 11 years ago, and it became a bestseller, which was great. After the book came out, 2 more people in this world started to believe in miracles, me and my mother. Because, my mom for years would say, like, Masha, I can't believe you wrote a book. So, but it's a book. It's not a typical self-help book. Like I said, I use this system, the 1 Minute Coach system, that is very unique and very effective. Each chapter takes a minute. It's almost like a stand-alone chapter. You can use it, you can use my books as a reference guide. You can just open it on any page and use it as a message for today with some action steps. It's very inspiring, broken down using this accelerated learning techniques, which has certain rules that you follow, that makes it very easy. Even complicated concept that some of them that I use are a little bit complicated, but I make it so easy for people to understand that they love this book. So that's why I decided to make a series of the 1 Minute Coach books, where I would partner up with people who are experts in certain fields. And then I would just write the book using this 1 minute coach format. So coming back to my last book, what you asked me about, the 1 minute coach to mastering your emotions, that came out March this year, just a few months ago. And mainly because, again, my readers and my clients started saying, Masha, when is the next book coming? Mm-hmm. So I started writing initially a book on decision making, because I thought, the quality, and I still think that the quality of the decisions that we make determine the quality of the life that we experience. So I thought it was an important book to write on the why we make certain decisions, how to make better quality decisions. But somewhere halfway through the book, this topic of emotions came up, and I sent out a questionnaire asking if people would prefer to read the book on decision making or emotions, or mastering emotions. And a determining answer came from a 19-year-old who said, if I know how to master my emotions, I will be able to make better quality decisions. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, that makes sense. So I rewrote the book and made it about emotions. Mm-hmm. One of the main reasons I chose this particular topic is because about 5 years ago, my marriage broke up. And to me, you asked me how difficult it was to immigrate. It was a joke compared to the breakup of the marriage, for me personally. Sure. Maybe for some people it would be a different experience, but for me, I'm an idealist, I'm the romantic. I thought, would go on forever. It was a big shock. It was just, facing my biggest fears, and even with all the tools I already had by that time, it was very, very, very tough. And without some very close friends and some help that I got, I didn't know. And the fact that I had 3 children that I had to look after, I was able to get out of it. And again, I would say the best thing that happened to me, as usual, when we faced with really tough challenges in life and we do not give in to them, we will always come out on top, stronger, better, kind of bigger people. I like myself much more now than I was 5 years ago. I put it this way.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. So I can understand part of that, having gone through my own divorce experience, and same kind of way. It was extremely difficult at the time, but now I am stronger, and I also like myself more too. So I understand that part. So the idea of fear is something I find very interesting, and so you mentioned that a couple of different times. Mm-hmm. So in your own experience, and you've gone through many experiences that make people very fearful and apprehensive. Mm-hmm. How do you approach fear and overcome it?
I made a decision some time ago to do the things that I fear, because this is, if you want to actually grow, and I think most people would want to, you have to make it one of your goals to face your fears, because your fears are indications of somewhere where you have a block, or if you give in to fear, immediately your confidence, your self-esteem, goes down, because you're allowing something else control you, which in this case is fear. Mm-hmm. So this is actually one of the reasons why the relationship broke up, because I knew I had this incredible fear of losing my husband, being abandoned. I suppose that was one of my biggest fears. Mm-hmm. And I read a quote, and it said, if you're scared to lose something, lose it and don't be scared anymore. And that was a determining factor. I remember I read that quote and I said, you know what? I don't want to live in fear anymore. Finish. And I made that decision, and it was harder than I expected. I will be honest with you. But at the end, it was definitely worth it. Definitely. So facing fears on the road to success, I guarantee that there is not a successful person out there that has not faced many, many fears. It's impossible. You cannot achieve success unless you're good at facing fears.
Okay. In your own journey, what would you say has been the best advice you've ever received?